Alright, welcome back everyone. Today on the workbench we have Centipede. Now this one is mine. This is not a customer's. I got this and a couple other games from a Facebook user. These were ones that he could not fix, so I ended up buying these from him. I like a challenge, so keep myself on my toes, I guess. First time looking at it, doesn't look that bad. Edge connector looks really good. Kind of impressed with that. No burnt pins. No deep gouges or anything like that. Edge connector so far looks good. Got a little bit of copper showing here and there. Not a major crisis. We can clean up and tin that. That'll fix that. Overall, not bad. RAM is intact, no sockets on that. Original EPROMs, we are missing the 2055 RAM here. Not a big deal. That'll just we won't have high score right now. Odd part with it, that did not, from when it came from the factory, that did come with the socket, so they got everything out of this. But it looks like it was removed okay. No damaged pins or anything here. I think we're all right. Scratch RAM here, the 2114s have been socketed. My guess is they've been changed. These raw EPROMs over here, windows have been uncovered. Yeah, I doubt that's going to be a problem unless it was stored in a window or something like that, but we could double check that. At first, I thought we were missing our 6502 and we had a pokey, but looking at this, I don't know if you guys can see. Let me bring you down here a little closer. $6502. He's hanging out in a pokey spot. That's not going to work. That will cause some major problems there. If you look, someone marked the board over here with a red marker. It says no boot. Well, if they tried to boot the game with the CPU over here, that's going to fry it and you won't get a boot. Sockets, these actually look good. Let's get a little closer look on these. This kind of makes me think these were changed. Nice dual wipes. The pins are nice and shiny. Nothing's bent. I have a feeling they were changed. Let's, wrong tool. Let's get the 6502 out of the pokey spot here. And see what that socket looks like. And they are the same. Nice shiny, no bent pins. Now the $1 million question is, did they power it like this? Because if they did, that 6502 is toast. We're going to put them in and find out. On the 6502, pin 1 is ground, and your 5 volt coming in is pin 8. On a pokey, pin 1 is ground, but VCC is somewhere down in here, pin 17 or so. So if they fed 5 volts into that, that's definitely going to mess that processor up from being in there. But we don't need a pokey to test it, so let's get the test rig out, hook up, and see what happens. Alright, got the test rig set up here. I'm not overly worried right now about sound or control, so we're not going to hook any of that up. I just want to see if we're going to boot. Again, I don't think we're going to, but we'll find out. Pump you guys around a little bit. I got the test rig all set up. Let's get power to it and see if what we get. All right, we got our light for 5 volt, 4.53 on the board. And garbage. Not a big surprise after what that processor went through, but I will say I'm kind of happy with that. You can see here, we do have sync. We got garbage, but we got sync. So that tells me that our clock circuit's working. Because the horizontal and vertical sync are derived from the counters up here. I think these are 163s. And they are working off of the base frequency of the crystal. So we have sync, we have a clock. I bet we're resetting though. Let me just grab the logic probe. We'll hook on that and check pin 40. All right, if we check pin 40, yep, we are resetting. So we're not running code. Now we can check our clock down here. As you can see, we do have a clock. Don't know what it is without the scope being hooked onto it. We can see if our ROMs are being addressed, which they are. Nope, that one is not. The reset. Oh, that one is. We do have some activity. Well, I have a feeling that processor took a hit when it was hooked up. So let's power down, get a new processor in here. I have 6502s somewhere. All right. Let's get him out of here. And 6502. Let's see if that makes any difference at all. All right, power again. Here we go. Well, we got some different garbage. Reset button is working. Let's check pin 40 again here. All right, so our watchdog is shutting us down and resetting here, though. Let's see if we have some ROM activity now. ROM 3, 0. Nothing on ROM 1 or ROM 2. Not the greatest connection, but we do have on 0. So, but still not running code. Yeah, it could be an EEPROM issue. Could be a RAM issue. Or the hardware associated with the buffers could be bad. I'm going to dig into this a little more. Let me bring up the schematics and we'll see what we have. All right, one thing I just thought of before we break out the schematics on this. One thing I want to try. We know for the game to boot, you have to have voltage, you have to have a processor, the software, and RAM to run everything in. We know we have the right voltage. We know we have a good processor now since we put that in. But the software on the EEPROMs, we don't know if this is good. As I said, these windows were exposed, so there's a possibility something's corrupt and the game ROM's not able to get the instructions through and dump everything into the RAM. The RAM's kind of like the mixing bowl where all the ingredients go together. The processor can pull from it, add to it. So if that's not working, or the instructions itself, the software's not running, we could have a problem. Now, we could pull these, verify them on the computer, but I do have a test set of ROMs for this. We're going to pop those in first. That's a real quick, easy way to see if it's a software issue. So let's get these chips out and get my test ones in. And if it is one of these, that'll be easy to fix. I could just wipe them out, burn a new one. That's easy to do. Just got to find the right test ROMs. There we go. Can't see the silk screening here. D. I'm hoping this will bring the board back to life. All right, now before we power up, everything's facing the right direction. So let's get some power on this and see if the software made any change. All right, let's see if that made any change to the game at all. Got our voltage. No. All right, well, still not running code. We're seeing some mushrooms and stuff appear. That's just the video RAM pulling what it just sees straggling laying around. It's displaying whatever it can find, and unfortunately it's garbage. So we know we got good software though now, so 3 of the 4 items we need we're good with. So let's look at the RAM next. Let's kill the power on this. We can try 2 new chips in this just to see if it is bad RAM. But let me get disconnected here once. I want to be able to flip this board over without a major issue. The fact that these were socketed, I want to take a look at that work. Holy shit. Well, I should have took a better look at this board before we did anything. I think I see a problem. Let's get you guys down here a little closer. Yeah, this thing, we are missing pads everywhere on these sockets that are put on there. Let me see if I can get you a little more light. Oh yeah, there's like 5 pads missing right here. That trace right here doesn't even look like it's connected. That one might be, maybe. That one doesn't look like it's even connected. When someone put these sockets in, they butchered this board. Pretty much all these are missing the pads. We're gonna have to pull this out and see. We're gonna see if the vias are any good and how many traces are disconnected. And if the bottom of the board looks like this, who knows what the top's even gonna look like. So Let me get the desoldering iron fired up, and we're going to get these sockets out of here and inspect the board. Okay, got the sockets out of this thing. Well, you've seen what the bottom of the board looked like. It's worse without the sockets. The top, though, I have you guys looking through the magnifier right now to try to get close enough so you can see what we have here. The tinning is taken off of this trace, and there's one here. I did ohm this out. They are intact, so got a little damage, but I'm going to re-tin this before we go on. But here's the biggest problem I found with this. If you look at the traces here, coming out of pin 10 on the F2 RAM, that line comes up, it should join pin 10 on H2. But that trace is damaged right here and pushed over, connecting onto pin 8. Now, luckily, none of these are power. Pin 8 on a 2114 is your chip select. Pin 10 is our right enable. So for the most part, we just, it was the equivalent of these being shorted was the equivalent of just disabling these RAM. They were doing nothing. So it would be like a bad RAM. This is most likely what was causing our issue. We have to get that separated, reattached here. Now, actually, it may still be attached, but let me look. We'll ohm that out real quick just to make sure. Helps if I put the meter in the right mode. There we go. So we go from pin 10. Do we have continuity? We do. But we also have it to pin 8. So our chip select is shorted to our right enable. So we got to separate that, get it away from that pad, and repair this trace before putting sockets in. The rest of the board up here looks good. As I said, we're missing the tinning here, but as you can tell, that one's good. Right here is a little damage as well, but that ohms out correctly. So let me get the X-Acto out and try to do a repair here. I'm going to get the camera and everything out of the way so I can see better to do this, and I'll come back and show you the results. Hopefully you guys can see this. I'm sorry, my camera's not focusing that great here, but I was able to separate this trace here from the pad. Got some solder on it to stiffen everything back up and put some coating on it to stop it from moving or shorting again. So all we have to do now is just ohm this out, and hopefully that part is repaired. So let's see if we're... first, let's check to make sure we have continuity between pin 10 and 10. Good, we do. Now let's see if we have it on 9. We do not. And ground, we do not. Good, so the repair is good. All right, that takes care of the damage on the top of the board. Now, let me get it set up here, and let's start tackling the damage on the bottom. All right, I'm hoping you guys can see this pretty good here. The damage on the bottom of the board, we are definitely missing a trace coming off of this, where the pad's missing over to this leg. Right here we're missing one. This one's partially ripped off, but the vias are still here. So when we solder this, that will continue and make that junction here, so we'll have continuity there. So right now we got two major ones we have to fix. These pads, they're missing, but the vias are there. So if we get solder in here, that will stabilize this. There's no traces coming off them, so we can get away with that. This one is the same way. This connection here, we just have to make sure we get enough solder to reconnect. So easiest way to do this right now is to let me get a socket in. I'm going to tack it in where we're secured yet, and we have our pads to hold it in place. Then we can make our repair. So let me get the socket and tack it in real quick. All right, so our traces have been repaired. I did get the sockets in, but you can see here, ended up repairing that, put layer of coating on it to stop it from touching anything, and also kind of secure it down in place. On the back, there were two traces torn out. They are now repaired, coated as well. So this should now work. I did ohm out the rest of the pathways. Everything's connected. We have continuity everywhere now. So our address lines and everything are connecting. So if we populate this, I'm hoping we have a booting game and get the ROM or the RAMs back in it. We'll get the test harness back on it, and we'll see what we have. I keep saying I'm going to fix this and put a new connector on it because that is getting a little sharp. Someday I'll actually do it. There we go. Let's get our 15 volts hooked in. All right. Everything looks connected. Let's try it out. Let me get you switched over to the monitor here real quick. All right. Power up and see what we have now. All right, we do have a booting game. I like it. We definitely have a RAM issue for the video RAM. I'm not too worried about that. Got a solid row of mushrooms coming down. I'm not worried about that because that's the pokey that's doing that, or the lack of pokey. One of his jobs, other than the audio, it's a random number generator that's used to place the mushrooms sporadically across the board. Let's see what we have here. That is definitely a memory issue. One of our RAMs. Let's see which one. So there is group 1, 2, 3. Group 3 is our problem. If you look down here on the board, let me zoom in a little bit. We have the 82101 RAMs here. Group 1, they're paired together. These two work together, these two together, these two, and these two. This, what I call group 1, takes care of this portion of the screen, the first row, bottom portion. The next group here takes care of the top of that row. The third group takes this line, the next one over. Fourth is the top. So you can see where every other one, so that is going to be these two right here. Now, I can't tell, it's not giving me a solid character, so I don't know what's coming up here. So let's see if we can hit the reset here and get it to stay. Of course not. Give me a character, come on. D. All right, D, that is going to be this side here. So, third group, this side. So this chip here, which is our M7, that I believe is what's going to be our bad RAM. One way to find out, to prove it, I didn't even think about this. I'm going to put a pokey in this. What that will do, let me get you back up here a little bit. We put a pokey in here, that'll get rid of our solid row of mushrooms, but it also will work with the sound then. And if we go into test mode, the test mode will beep and give us a number and tell us which RAM is bad. So let me power off. Let me dig out a pokey. Times are getting tight. That's my last one. These things are getting harder and harder to find, and they are more expensive when you do find them. Kind of treat them like a newborn. Can't risk them getting hurt. All right, so now let me power up and just make sure we should get rid of that solid row of mushrooms. They should be spread out a little better. Yes, now we have some random mushrooms kind of going everywhere. So let me get the sound, let me get on my speaker hooked in, and we'll go to test mode and see if it's going to beep at us. Where's my speaker wires? There they are. Ah, come on. Pin must be bent. It is. Alright, stay there. Let me turn that volume down just a little bit. Alright, so now we're going to boot the game back up, and I'll put it into test mode and see if we get our beeps. If we do, that'll give us a number to go by. We'll look in the operator's manual, and that will tell us what RAM is bad. Seven beeps. Let me reset it and check again. All right, 7 beeps. So let me get up. Let me open that operator's manual up and see what 7 is going to give us. All right, let's get rid of the schematic here, and we'll bring up the manual for that. All right, now find the self-test. Setup. Self-test, here we go. Let's see. Yep, right here, RAM test. All right, so 7 beeps is M7, it is saying. So let's go back to the board. M7. The one I thought it was. All right, so let me get the desoldering iron out. Pop him out, and we'll put a socket in there and try a new RAM. I'm going to be right back when that's done. All right, so I got that 9101 or 2101 RAM out, socketed. Put a new one in. We're going to see what happens now. So let's get plugged back in. And with any luck, we have a fully functioning game now. If this works, I will dig out the trackball, play a quick game just to make sure the controls work. And if we're good to go, I will take it up and put it in my machine, let it run for about 8 hours on this one, just because of it being a memory issue we had to repair. Any problems and stuff. Just I want to give it a good burn in just to make sure there's no other issues. All right, we are connected. Speaker. And let me get my power cord here real quick. Be right back. There we go. No more rows. That's just a dip switch setting there. That's not a big deal. I'm not even sure what language that is. but it's not going to affect gameplay. Let's see. See if we can coin up. There we go. We do have sound. All right, shooter, left, right, up and down. All right, so we have all controls.